We're going to get cracking in a moment, but before we do, this is an important announcement. The information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal situation. We don't guarantee the quality of the wine or the banter contained in this content. You should consider whether the information is appropriate for your needs and your daily intake. And where appropriate, seek professional advice from a financial advisor, accountant, bottle shop assistant, or relevant qualified professional. Matters referred to in this podcast are of general nature only, and for those of drinking age, and should not be relied upon in place of appropriate personal advice, or the odd glass of wine on a Friday.
To make sure you get the most out of wealth, wine and wisdom, folks, please follow the house rules. Don't be a wallflower, get involved in the chat. We love to have some questions, feedback, and a little bit of commentary along the way. You give us energy, we'll have a good time. Make sure you pour yourself a glass of something wet to wet the whistle. Make sure you get the banter flowing as well. Doesn't matter what you're drinking, whether it's wine, our favourite, beer, coffee, maybe it's a cup of tea, water, or even juice. Keep that good energy flowing, folks. There's some house rules. If you don't put your name down, we don't know who you are, you're not coming in. Don't spam or advertise. This is our little game of cricket. This is all about debriefing the week, folks. What's going on out there in the world, and hopefully get you some sanity, maybe a bit of a chuckle at the end of the week, so we can all be on the same page and keep moving forward. Make sure you respect your fellow patrons, because we don't let any old muck in this place. And most of all, have some fun and enjoy this episode of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. Hey, Benton.
Witten. Hey, before we get started, there's an empty glass. All right. Now, you may remember at the beginning of last episode, I said that I found this new device that allows you to buy really good wine and protect our liver by not drinking too much. So here is where the rubber hits the road.
All right.
Here's where the rubber hits the road. So while I'm pouring this, for those of you who don't know, we're trying out this thing called Coravan. We're not sponsored by them. We should probably ask them to be.
We will hit them up. Coravan, sponsor us. Come on.
We'll hit them up. So for those of you who know, me and Jace, we love good wine. Jace likes to freeze it occasionally and turn it into a slushy, and he's done that with some very, very expensive stuff. But the reason why we stopped Wealth, Wine and Wisdom is we were starting to worry about our livers. So limiting to one glass, but having the really good stuff. So mate, maybe I'll bring up while I'm pouring this to see whether Coravan has kept this thing nice. We'll bring up the chat. Let us know where you're watching from as I pour this out. Let us know what you're having a drink of as well. I'm having the Chateau O'Bailey Grand Cru Classic Pessac from Pessac 2018. So let's see whether this actually works, Jace.
There you go. Well, good on you, mate. Well, we've got Deanne in there. She said she'll work on the sponsorship straight away. She's reaching out, Andy. So there you go. Nigel, you should be sponsored. There you go. Good on you, Nigel. Thanks, mate. Thanks for the support. Raymond's here as well. Bradley's in town. Honor, good to see you. David, I can't control the chat, Andy. So I don't know if you can do 2 or 3 things at once, but I can't see the rest of it. You have to scroll it, not me.
Oh, it's not scrolling. Hang on. Let me do my job.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get good help around here, but that's all right. Honor's coming in from the ACT. Bob's in the house as well, so there you go.
Or maybe we'll pull them up one by one. I'll just finish pouring it because the devil is in the detail, as we know, Jace. But so let's just see. So for those of you watching, the test is whether we can store a good bottle of wine over the course of a week and still it to be world class and maybe even amazing. So let's have a look at this. See how we go. Got a good nose still on it, Witten, and. Bit of a different nose. It is a bit of a different nose. Ooh, that's pretty bloody good, Jace. That's pretty good.
Well,
that's very, very good.
You'll have to make sure you let me know how to use it. So there you go.
Wow. I'm there's your lovely wife, Jace. She's watching. I heard that Mum's watching tonight too, so we might get a few angry faces on podcast somewhere. There you go. And we've got Sonia driving in, just driving the bus with Sam. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, the crew's up in Brisbane doing a bit of a bus tour, so, big shout out to them as well. But tonight I can't see the chat for some weird reason, Andy, so you're going to have to run the chat side of the biz tonight. But there's plenty on, mate. There we go. The Dons in Ballarat. 5 degrees. Cup of tea time. Well, there you go. Whatever it is, folks. Whatever it is. If it's a cup of tea, a beer, glass of wine, red or white. I'm on the white today. There you go.
Chateau Le Box.
Le Box.
I'm not sure if that's a euphemism, but if it's not, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Riesling. I think you helped me buy this.
The Art of War. Yeah, that's a good Clare Valley drop.
Yeah,
we actually got that one at one of the Super 27 events, which was down in the Barossa Valley.
Yeah, we did.
So g'day, Jeff. Good to see you, and Dee's here as well. So let's get into it, team, because when COVID hit here, Fear went viral. But instead of echoing panic, we chose a different path here at Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. We decided that facts aren't boring, and we'd stick with facts rather than fear, and educate Australian business owners and investigators. Investors. Jesus, this must be strong already. Cutting through the clickbait journalism with clarity, strategy, and truth. And ultimately, results were extraordinary. We helped save hundreds of businesses from bankruptcy, guided thousands of Australians through financial uncertainty, and empowered many to grow exponentially. Well, especially you, Witten, you helped that because you made some big calls at the beginning of COVID where I was like, oh my God, we're going to get sued. Luckily, you were right. You were right when most people were too scared to do anything. And as a result, our community thrived. Together, we helped seize one of the most significant wealth opportunities that we've seen in Australian history, maybe even in modern Australian history. So now, as the next crisis looms, we're back. As they say in trading places, we're back, Mortimer. National debt is soaring beyond $1 trillion. Yeah. And tax reform in Australia under a 10-year, probable 10-year Labor government is threatening the very foundations of wealth building, investing, and also business. And the housing crisis, well, let's face it, team, they've not done jack proverbial there. And put into the mix, one of the biggest intergenerational wealth transfers we've seen ever. It's a record, ladies and gentlemen. It's a record transfer, and that's just around the corner, and it's starting to happen now. This isn't just economic turbulence. It's a complete reshaping of the financial system. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, we're hoping to be your compass, your strategy room, your unfair advantage. This is your exit plan evolution, the next chapter in helping Australians not just navigate, but capitalize on the potential chaos that surrounds us. We'll decode the policies from the pollies, forecast market shifts, and show you how to protect and multiply your wealth. Well, we'll do our best. We'll also have a little bit of a soapbox moment along the way because we're a bit passionate about what we do here. So listen up. This is what we've got to say. Jace, I reckon it's time to decant the week.
Yeah, mate, let's do it. Congratulations. I'll turn that damn message off there on the screen because I'm going to kick off decanting the week with a WTF in a moment. folks. So hang around for this one because this one has grinded my gears for quite a while. And we did get some feedback from a few people with our commentary saying, yeah, well, you talk about all these problems. What do we do about them? All right, today we're going to do it. You guys know that in our real jobs, we actually get down to business and get stuff done when it comes to navigating these challenges and problems, folks. These afternoons, Wealth, Wine, or Wisdom on a Friday is about spotting some of these sneaky bastards, what they're up to, and calling them out. But folks, if you ever sit there listening to our content and going, yeah, it's great. We know that everyone's out to get us when it comes to our dollars and cents. What are we doing about it, Jason and Andy? Well, we do have some solutions, folks. So hang around for a few of those. Into the show as well as we go. But in our regular day jobs, that's what we get up to. But anyway, let's decant the week. And I'm going to kick off with a WTF. What the fuck?
What the fuck?
I don't know. Did that work? My internet must be playing up at my end because it's doing a bit of weird stuff today. But hey, listen, what happened, folks? Put it in the chat. I actually can't bloody see the chat, which is annoying. But put it in the chat. What happened this week? There was a big announcement, Andy. Something went on that benefited all Australians that have mortgages. What happened, folks? What went on this week? We should all raise a glass. Our RBA governor, are they called the governor? RBA governor? The governor of the
Hello, Governor.
Hello, Governor.
Hello, Governor.
They did something that benefited most Aussies. Back pockets this week, Andy. What was it? Yep, kids on gaming. I don't know about that, but there was something that happened. A rate cut. That's right, Nigel.
Well done, Nigel. Rate cut.
Yeah, rate cut came through, and that's a welcome relief for everyone in Australia who's got mortgages. Certainly, the cost of living is squeezing a lot of Aussies, that's for sure. So you would think, Andy, after all of the heat and pressure and the cost of living and all of this sort of stuff, the banks would be right there supporting the Australian public, right?
One would wonder whether that's an erectile dysfunction graph there, Jace. Holy smoke! What the hell is that?
Well, the fastest interest rate rises in Australian history from our lowest interest rate rises. And this is the stuff that you and I talked about during COVID, Andy. We said, hey, listen, folks, take advantage while you can. Well, I did anyway. I'm a big fan of the right type of debt. Good debt can accelerate your wealth. Bad debt can destroy you. You got to understand the two and how to use it. But, it was the lowest interest rates in history in Australia.
I'm going to interrupt you, Jason. I'm just going to blow your trumpet in a non-euphemistic way here, because I actually heard two of your compadres, your professional compadres, at the back of a room when you were delivering what would only be known as a wealth sermon. It was incredible. You were talking from the heart, and they were both sitting back. They both work with you, and they were both going, Jesus, Jace went and double and tripled down and went all in. He went all in when COVID hit. When interest rates started dropping, that he went all in. And they said, geez, I wish we'd done the same thing. Because I know your portfolio soared. And the reason why I bring that up is because A, I heard it and it's a nice thing to acknowledge. But B, ladies and gents, that's called walking the talk.
Mate, it's certainly, I think I agree with you with what you said at the opener. Like in my history that I've been paying attention now, let's call it 30 years of paying attention to my wealth. The first 20 we were just kicking around, but this is the largest movement in wealth, personal wealth for Australians ever that I've ever seen, I've ever paid attention to. Certainly in my game anyway, in such a short period of time. Certainly in the gross number. Maybe percentages have been higher in the past, but the gross number from a higher base has been unbelievable for the average Aussie. But one thing that's going to happen here, folks, and I talk about this all the time, nothing happens without an equal and opposite reaction or an action. So
Absolutely.
interest rates go down. Something else in Australia, 99.9% of the time goes up.
It is an erectile dysfunction graph.
There you go. It goes down, goes up. Let's see what's
There you
going
go.
on here. But Andy, they dropped the interest rates. Fantastic. Good news for the average Aussie. Puts an extra couple of bucks in the bank for them. And you'd think the lenders, the banks, being the good citizens of Australia, the good corporate citizens of Australia, would be in a hurry to pass that on to the average Aussie, wouldn't you think? Because you know what? When
there's an administration delay, Jace. There's an administration. We've got to chat with our governor. We've got to chat with our general. We've got to chat with the general's wife. We've got to chat with the general's wife's husband.
How long do you want that to take, Andy? Like a day, 2 days?
Well, I'd expect that it would at least take 6 months, Jason. Let's be realistic. Like we're not a charity here. We're making billions of dollars. We can't just pass that on straight away because we'll miss out on another few $100 million per day. Well, that's it. You go check it out, folks. The big four posting record profits, and the price of property goes up. That's exactly right, gone up. But here's the gist. Here's the drill right now. The banks take their sweet time. Now, listen. Can it happen immediately? And everyone goes, oh, well, maybe it's got to, guess what, folks? There are lenders out there that are passing on the rate cuts literally 10 minutes after it happens. Literally after it happens. We need an assessment because they passed on the rises within around about 24 hours.
That is it. Well, this is it. Yeah, check this out, folks. Here's the average that they pass it on, but here's the average where they remove it, or the opposite way. So the increase, they'll pass it on faster. The decrease, they pass it on slower, Andy. And this is ludicrous. Now, this is not new. This grinds my gears. This is a report back in 2010. And here's the thing as well. This is the cheeky bit about these bastards. Let me tell you, right? Look, they pass on average 116%, folks, each rate rise, but they only pass on average 84% of each rate cut. Now, this is the sort of stuff that the government should be all over. Like,
hang on. Hang on, Jace. 116%
of a rise. So they put more on top on the up, and they take less off on the down. This is the cheeky bastards.
It doesn't surprise me on the way down, but I didn't know they passed on more on the way up. I actually didn't realize that.
On average, this is the drill. You guys can go find this. Now this stuff really sort of grinds my gears. The effective dates here on average. You have a look at this. Check it out in the past. 21 days. In 2019 and 2020. 21 days to pass on a rate cut, CBA. Shame on you. That is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Right.
Well, they're the most profitable bank.
Well, there you go. You go, all right, I have my mortgage with them, but I buy their shares.
Their shares, don't have the mortgage. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
This is the thing. It's diabolical. And so, on average, they pass it on faster. On average, they pass on more. Then they take off the pace to do it, right? And sort of, 10 days of recent times, a little bit faster. And that hopefully that continues when it comes to the bigger banks.
10 days to me. I reckon ANZ's probably got it right, mate. Like if I go logistically, operationally, risk management from a big institution, you got to take 7 days to make the decision. You probably already made it, but let's just be fair. 7 days to organise the appointment of the meeting of the right people to sit in a room to say, yeah, we're going to pass it on. I reckon that it's a roundabout right.
Well, guess what, mate? Macquarie, you and I, have a love-hate relationship with Macquarie. Sometimes they do some great stuff. Sometimes they do some loose stuff. But, they pass it on in 3 days. Their average is 3 days. They're a reasonably large institution in Australia. Not one of the big four. But, so this is
one of the big five.
Hey, well, there you go. And the digital banks, guess what? Instant. Like that. So, this is the thing, Andy. You and I talk about this all the time when it comes to our worlds. There's a bit of taking the piss sometimes. I think this one's a bit of a piss take when it comes to, what's going on. But there's one thing for me. It's the old what the fuck's going on here. Keep an eye on these buggers, folks, because if they don't treat you well and they don't give you the right services, then you got to make sure you vote with your feet. You find out the right lenders, and away you go. So that's a little one for me, Andy. I've got a little bit of something where when it comes to one of the menaces in a minute. We've got a few menaces, folks, don't we? And which devalue our wealth. But but maybe chuck back to you for a little bit of something.
Well, maybe just before I go into the decanning the week, maybe we look at a little bit of the perfect pairing, just so that we do a teach piece that helps people navigate things better. So, mate, whack on the perfect pairing. All right. So, you asked for it, team. You wanted us to put our education, I guess, or provide some solutions. So I thought I'd bring up this slide. It's called The Hero's Journey, and it comes from a conversation that I had today, and it's specifically around lending, right? Specifically around lending. So this is for everybody who's got a mortgage, a commercial mortgage, a principal place of residence mortgage, an investment property mortgage, an agribusiness mortgage, the full box and dice. Now, I was chatting with somebody who will probably come into our fold today, and he was a ex CBA employee, came from a recommendation from somebody who was high up in credit with CBA. And I thought, well, why is it, Jace, that you would go to a mortgage broker instead of a bank, right? Why would you? Because there's clearly the mortgage broker gets paid by a bank. And ultimately, this was the conversation that happened today that sparked this little teach piece. And the quote that I've got, and this was from Luke, if you're watching, I'm not going to steal it from you. He said, you can't craft a good story once the story's already been told. So what do I mean by that, Jace? You can't craft a good story once the story has already been told. And so, ladies and gents, in our world, right, where a lot of the time Jason and I get involved with chatting with people after they've got into a bit of strife, right? Can't borrow money, can't do this in the business, come to us, and we've got a fair bit in our tool belt, but typically the more strife, the more it costs, and that's not necessarily ours. That's the cost of debt and finance. So you can't tell a good story once the story's already been told. And this goes to, if you are just going from bank to bank to bank and you're applying for a loan, you're getting rejected, or even you're getting accepted across multiple banks, the story is being written, and it's being written in stone in data that's being shared across your credit profile. Your credit profile.
Yep.
And part of what a mortgage broker is designed to do is to stop you from having to go into what they call credit therapy. And credit therapy is, once you get a loan and you can't manage that loan, you then go into credit therapy, which is how do you increase the relationship with your bank and your loan because you're in a bit of strife, and then you will become unfundable after that.
I call it the lending naughty corner, mate. You get put in the naughty corner, you can't get out.
And his point was, when it comes down to every loan that goes through a broker or goes through the bank, it goes up through somebody called the credit manager, right? And the credit manager's job is not to do deals, it's to manage risk on behalf of the bank. That's
what they do, those bastards.
So the reason, ladies and gentlemen, that you go to a broker first, a good broker, like find a good broker. If you want some tips, we've got plenty of people we can introduce you to, but a good broker, you go to a good broker because their job is to paint a good story of your financial position. And where there might be cracks in your financial position, their job is to paint that in the best possible light so that when they prepare your story to the bank, it looks as good as it possibly can. So when Mr. Credit Manager puts his risk eye over it and looks at it and goes, oh, does it pass the risk test? You've told him the right story straight off the bat, increasing a chance to get a loan. And he's not looking back and going, well, you went to try and get it with the ANZ. What happened there? You went to try and get it with Westpac. What happened there? You went to try and get it with the CBA. And now you're asking me, hang on, there's something wrong here.
Well, it passed the sniff test, isn't it, Andy? And, you wouldn't send in your first draft of a book, into Penguin Publishing and go, there it is. That's the one, right? Spelling mistakes and all sorts of stuff.
Especially you and I. Jeepers Christ. It'd be illegible.
Draft in, but that's exactly right. If you want to get the most out of your lending position, you need to make sure that you genuinely represent your position in the best quality light you can. And a great broker helps you do that very nicely.
And number two, behind that, because ladies and gentlemen, we've just finished tax season and now it is time to report on how much you paid. So now you should be thinking about, how much do I need to borrow? How much tax do I need to show in order to be able to borrow effectively? And make sure that when you have those conversations with the accountant, you paint yourself in the best light. So it might be a good idea to reach out with your broker and have a conversation with them about what you're going to be doing in your lending over the next 12 months. We always say that lending is not a transaction, it's a relationship, and you need to build them part of your core 4 team and have annual conversations with them, how you can do better, what you need to show in order to get your best success.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a little bit of a what can you do to navigate these periods, because it's getting cheaper. So why wouldn't you get your hands on to more of it?
Well, mate, lending is certainly for most of us the rocket fuel for our investing. Using smart debt and getting some leverage is certainly powerful. Certainly when it comes to the world of property investing. So folks, if you haven't done it yet, get cracking with your accountant and your broker and get that team working for you.
100%. Well, you know what? It's impossible to succeed without debt in today's society. That's a fact. So make it work for you. So what's been happening in the week, Jace? Well, there's been an earthquake down here, the biggest that we've had in a long time. 3.2% magnitude earthquake down here on the Mornington Peninsula. It happened at 4 or 4:30 in the morning.
Did you feel the shake or not?
No, I thought it was just me dropping the weights, but ultimately, I think that the real reason behind it is that all of a sudden people became aware of the Victorian government debt, and everyone at the same time. So, it was a big moment, and so let's check this out. So, Victoria, congratulations, we've won again. We now, per person, have more debt per person than the whole of the rest of Australia combined. We've won the race again. All right. So WA has $9,400 per person worth of debt. Victoria has 25,000. 25,000. It's over double that of WA. New South Wales is at 15,000 per person. We've still got a 10% GST on that, which is outrageous. Outrageous, Jace. So what does all of this mean? Well, this comes from somebody I've started following more recently, David Wild. This was an interesting press release, so I'd urge you to go and have a read of it. There's some interesting statistics that I pulled from it. So percentage change in interest expenses by function of government from 2025 to 2028. So what's it going to look like? This is a forecast. So ultimately, the interest expense is going up to 40%. 40%.
Ludicrous.
That now, just ladies and gents, if we keep borrowing money and not producing shit, that number is going north. And then what are they spending money on after that? The percentage change? Well, more into public services. That's people who work in the government. So the two biggest future expenses and the biggest increases that are sitting there, one is the debt for the bad decisions that they make, and two is to employ more people to make bad decisions. So let's understand where that graph's going. Education has got a minor increase. And so this is for the haters and the naysayers, right? You say, well, we're all grifters, we're trying to do whatever. Where is the dollar going? Well, more is going into tax, more is going into the interest bill, more is going into the government, tiny bit into education increase, a minute amount into health, which is less than 2%, which is a Medicare levy, tiny bit into transport. But what is going to be having less spent in the areas? Well, social protection. So police, fire, transport, less is going to be spent there. Public order and safety, environmental protection, housing. This is the one. Housing community amnesties. Housing and community amnesties. Economic affairs. Holy shit. And recreation and religion. Well, I'm not too fussed about the third part of the last one. But recreational, I don't mind doing things on the weekend. That's a staggering graph. This is the trend of where money is going to be spent in the future.
Well, they say, this debt is is a tax on your children's future. At the end of the day, that's the drill. Andy, you're in charge of the chat. I can't see it, but just make sure you keep an eye on that, folks. If today you think Andy and I are ignoring you, that's not happening. We're not ignoring you.
No, we're there. We've got you, Jeff.
We're here. We can't see the chat.
You can't see it at all, Jace.
I can't see the chat in any way, shape, or form. So usually,
even when I'm putting it over your face. Well, so Letitia's saying looking for a good broker, so send some contact details out. So we'll whack up a QR code later where you might be able to reach out, Letitia. Completely irresponsible, Jeff. I 100% agree with you. And Bradley says housing, ha ha ha. Like I absolutely 100%. Like this is ludicrous. So look, this is assuming that they've still got the same purse. But interest as a percentage of our total expenditure, as our total expenditure is about to rise to almost 10% of every dollar that's spent. But this is it, right? Have a look at this. Net debt per Victorian, as opposed to 2018, so 10 years ago to 3 years into the future, it will have gone per person from $3,300 to $24,000. $24,000 in a 10-year period. It is absolutely out of control, and needs to be reconciled. But you know what, Jace? Do you know what I give to somebody who is able to produce those types of results?
You give them a gold star?
I give them a statue. I give them a bronze statue at the mere taxpayer dollars of multiple millions of dollars, because I also think that holding Australians and Victorians, actually Melbourneites, for the longest on record, and let's not forget this one here, which was the longest lockdown of any major city in the world. We've never beaten Buenos Aires at soccer, Jace. We've never beaten them at soccer. But we beat them at something.
Competitive, mate. You guys love to win sport. So, if there was a competition on, well, you've got to win it. No?
Oh, mate, there you go. We didn't get bronze. It should be a gold statue, Jace. It should be, in my world, I reckon it should be a gold statue.
Anyway, I don't understand, but, there you go.
Unbelievable. So that's a little bit of what's going on in my world. I've got some things on EVs and things that maybe we'll chat about, but maybe I'll hold on that for a minute, Jason. Throw back and see what's happening in your world.
Well, I tell you what, mate. That we're giving Victoria a bit of a thrashing at the moment, and folks, this is the thing. To be a bit sort of, what do we call it, Andy? Bit contrarian when it comes to when somewhere gets a little bit, beat up in comparison to other places. You can see things being I missed that.
I'm sorry, Jace, you can't see it. Donna Rose. Donna just put
I can read it when you put it up, but I can't see it.
I hope they put that inside the bronze statue. That's hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's gold.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's gold. Sorry, mate.
Victoria, you get underlying fundamentals in a place, whatever it is. If it's a good company, if it's a good stock, it's a good property, whatever, you get some surrounding activity happening that devalues things, takes the shine off things, but it doesn't affect really the underlying fundamentals. And Victoria, we're given a decent bashing because they need some better politicians and a little bit better behavior.
Shit decisions produce great opportunities. They really do.
Yeah, very quickly that changes. We had the same thing in Queensland for a while, and very quickly the winds of fortune changed and improved Queenslanders, net position. We talk about money and wealth all the time, so that's the reference we're using. Lifestyle as well. So there you go. But mate, there's a few menaces we talk about out there, folks, in the marketplace. There's a couple of menaces, Andy. The number one menace, the politicians. But fear and ignorance is one of those menaces that we talk about all the time. and the purveyor, the number one purveyor of fear and ignorance, Andy, who loves to create fake, it sounds like fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news. It's fake news. Make Australia great again. But,
It's between him and Clinton, I'm now starting to wonder, like, who's the best? Right? I did not have a relationship with that woman.
Well, anyway, he's certainly making some splashes when it comes to this stuff, but putting the media in their place. But this is an interesting thing. Here's the drill, folks. Unless you've been living under a rock, the good old media have got their little drum out and they're beating it again. Any little glimpse of the ability to create some fear and ignorance in the marketplace.
And polarization, Jace. And polarization.
The media love it. They love it. They'll jump on any bit of clickbait rubbish and don't care if they report it accurately. Well, this is some trash from The Conversation. I don't even know what that is, some sort of online muppet. But a new plan. That's not a new plan, you idiot. It's some radical moron talking about it on the side. It's not a plan at all. But here's some of the stuff that's out in the marketplace right now, or out in the world of the media. And folks, listen, this is interesting. Let me flow through this, and I'll get to a point in a minute so you can sort of settle down and relax when it comes to negative gearing and capital gains tax right now. There's a lot of very noisy, squeaky, I think, financial fools that believe that this will make a difference to something somewhere, which is complete rubbish, complete bullshit. Won't make a difference to delivering property. I'm going to show you why in a minute, because it was proven, and I've got some stuff to show you. Follow along. But here's the drill. Here's the shit that's going on in the media. Property investors, use negative gearing, and they're the ones ruining the market, and they're the ones causing all of us to have problems. What a bunch of shit, right? So all of this stuff's going on out there.
But a good maneuver, Jace, like create a common enemy, and the common enemy is people who are using the rules to create success.
Well, this is the thing, right? This is the thing, folks.
Tall poppy syndrome.
It's tall poppy syndrome. And this is the stuff that really grinds my gears, So, whoever has created their own wealth, and we've followed the rules. Let's just use our clients as an example. Our clients, they're not born with $1 gazillion under the mattress, or whatever it is. They work their asses off, Andy. They work their asses off. They take risk. And, if they get it right, they get a reward. They follow the rules. They invest in things. They buy, invest. They plan for the future. By and large, most of our clients, most of these investors here are planning not to be a financial burden on your children and taxpayers in the future, because no, don't worry about it. I'll take care of myself, right? Now, negative gearing, at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of using whatever you can to get your momentum going forward. Negative gearing, use it. If it's not here, we would have another way to go about investing. But right now they're making a bit of a noise about this again, which is annoying the shit out of me. But here's the drill. This is what the reality is. Both the treasurer and Albo said, "Hey, we're not taking any changes at all. We're not taking any changes. Not taking any changes on the negative gearing of capital gains tax." They've said no, right? So they said no, and they said it 4 weeks ago. So it's not happening. The only change we're going to go after is super. Andy, both you and I have had our opinions on that one. We're not going to double down on it today. So they said no, but they've got this productivity committee going on, Andy, and then every man and their dogs there pitching whatever harebrained idea. But anyway, that's what they're doing. And they're talking about, people who own properties and how much they lose and all this sort of stuff. Listen, folks, at the end of the day, what happens is that Australians supply new real estate to the market. Now, this is an interesting one here. This is a fact, right? This is a fact. 40% of new homes were delivered this financial year, folks, by investors. 40%. Probably 40%. At probably one of the hardest or the worst markets for investors to be involved, because it's quite difficult. And in the past, it's been higher, Andy. All right. In the past, it's been higher. But let's just check this out. Let's just check this out. The ALP made an error. See that? They made an error. Yes, they did make an error. Let me tell you, right? They made an error to try and stand on something, a proposal in 2019. They said, right, we're going to take this proposal to the election, and they got fucking poleaxed, didn't they? They got knocked for six, right? Just as bad as Liberal just got knocked for six, unfortunately, at the end of the day. But listen, here's what they said. We're going to limit negative gearing, right? Okay. But they said all investments are going to be grandfathered. That's fine.
Grandfathered? Grandfathered? They don't grandfather anymore. They make the laws afterwards and they make them retrospective. That's a gift, isn't it?
Well, this is what you and I chat about all the time. Listen, I'm not a fan of changing the rules, but if you have to, if there's a good argument for it, change it going forward. Don't penalize all the people who followed the damn rules up to this point, right? So, change it going forward. Don't have someone who's spent 20 years of their life creating wealth and then you change the rules on them. I think that's abhorrent. All right. That's just disgusting.
Well, how do you know how to play the game, Jace, if you don't know what the rules are? And if the rules aren't consistent and they don't tell you what, they don't announce them with a megaphone to the Australian public, like how the hell are we even meant to play the game? We can't.
So anyway, in the past, in 2019, they said, we want to make these changes to depreciation and capital gains tax. We're going to take it to the polling booth, right? And guess what? What happened, folks? They got kicked to the curb. Everyone said, nah, piss off. We don't like it. And it really affected the Australian public, right? But here's what everyone doesn't realize, Andy. That behavior actually prior to that sparked Australia's largest or biggest decline in property supply we've ever seen. Now, I've been talking about this since 2018, way before COVID, right? Way before COVID. COVID was just the nail in the coffin, folks, when it came to property supply, right?
Oh, mate, I was there. Like the second episode of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, which was a couple of days into the COVID lockdowns here, you said, invest in property in Australia because it is about to boom because we have a crisis well before anybody was talking about it. He said, I've been talking about it for years. I'm like, Jace, do you want to go a little bit softer? Because we've just gone into the most aggressive, potentially bad time in history other than the wars. Yeah. And you're saying everyone buy a property. And I'm like, is it true? And when you showed me the stats, I was like, holy smoke, like this is absolutely a truth. Now it's coming to reality.
Come to reality. And it takes time to flow through, folks. They had a little bucket in 2016. And what they did, instead of changing negative gearing, Andy, here's what they did, folks. Here's the drill. And I might labor a little bit today, but I want to make a point here because the devil's in the details with some of this stuff, right? It's pretty important. So what happened in 2017, Andy, was super, super interesting, right? Put you back in there, mate. Did I turn you off? Like, how did I turn Andy off?
No. There we go.
All right. So this is the drill, right? In 2017, they made a change to the tax law, section 4027.2, right here. All right, reduces the amount the taxpayer can deduct from depreciation. Now, this was a significant change, right? So what was that legislation? So it happened. What did the change mean? After this date, you can no longer claim depreciation for any existing plant and equipment assets within the property, okay? You can still claim depreciation for other stuff, okay? Commercial property was exempt from that. And that's a little cheeky one there for you and me, Andy. That's a nice little hello. What does that really mean? What did they do? What change did they make? Well, listen, folks, if you bought a property, all right, you purchased it today, 2025, but that property was constructed in 2024, right? So let's say it's a second-hand property, right? Second owner property. Have a look at the plant and equipment here, Andy, over here.
Off the charts.
Zero, right? So what they did, they made some changes that effectively changed negative gearing anyway. So they reduced it. It was already effective. It was already happening when it came to that. So that happened in 2017, right? As you go. So the reality is for the average Aussie, they removed secondhand property from the equation when it came to the negative gearing benefits anyway. So that, well, guess what? Have a look at this secondhand property.
In order, Jace, to increase supply.
Hey?
In order to increase supply.
And guess what it did? Have a look at that arrow. This is secondhand property. This is what it did, folks. Like it just went down and didn't come back up, right? And they lost at negative gearing in 2019 or 2020, all right? And folks, a 25-year low in land sales. The shortfalls 23 and 24 in places of completed new homes, in the 30s to 50%, depending on where you are. Look at Western Australia, 50 and 60% shortfall in dwellings required to house Australians. So, it's lunacy what happened. They chased investors away. They changed the rules in lending.
Well, they didn't. They didn't necessarily chase investors away. They did bring in international investors, which have done bugger all apart from give money from Australians to international companies. So here's the rub, team. Like this is what's happened between what Jace just said and what bullshit that they've got with this whole build to rent scheme. Let's have a look at the reality behind it. What they've done is they've said Australian investors don't deserve to become wealthy if they take risk to buy property. We will reward hedge funds and massive institutions offshore and give them tax breaks and amazing gifts in order to make the money that Australian investors could. But we're going to say, no. We're thinking about scrapping negative gearing, but we'll give it to Goldman Sachs and we'll give them breaks on land tax. We'll give them stamp duty exemptions. That's what's happening. This is the shuffling of the deck.
And we'll double their depreciation from 2.5% to 4%. It's not double, but it's close enough.
Close.
So we'll give that to Goldman Sachs and BlackRock, and they can take the profits out of Australia, pay no tax here. But the average Aussie who's just got a few investment properties up their sleeve and planning for retirement, so they're not going to be a burden on the Australian taxpayer in the future. Because at the end of the day, you keep people poor, there's two things that are going to happen. One, you're just going to have to pay for them in the future anyway. So that's going to happen. Or if the rich ones actually get through, Andy, then they're either going to leave, or this is the part that everyone doesn't really get when it comes to the world of creating wealth. The rich are just going to get richer, folks, because I can tell you what, if they penalize me for owning assets, and at some point, Andy was like, all right, well, let's calculate the capital gains tax and we might rearrange the money. I'm like, nah, Andy, I'll just keep it. Like, you know what? There's one way to never pay capital gains tax, actually.
Never sell.
Never sell. Well, they're getting around that in super, aren't they, the cheeky bastards? But there you go.
It's the gateway drug, Jace. I told you it's the gateway drug.
But you know what? Like, this is it. Like, never sell. Like, that's why do the rich keep getting richer? Because they don't sell their stuff. They use a bit of debt and away they go. So, at the end of the day, team, you guys know this is like, it's preaching to the choir, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, Andy, when it comes to everyone on right now. But, that's something I think everyone needs to keep a bit of an eye on.
Well, it's Jace, never sell or move to a different country.
That's it.
Like we said last week.
Yep.
Massive amounts of people leaving the UK for draconian laws that are coming into place that need to change. But taxation. So I did a lot of research, team, since our last chat, and I've had a few people have a bit of a ping at me on social media. Actually, have gone, you're a this, you're a that, you're a the other. So I wanted to make sure that I was right, and I am. And the reality is, at no point in time ever in history, now you go and do the research, no point in time ever in history has a country anywhere in the world got out of a debt or GDP crisis using heavy taxes? It's actually the opposite. The opposite. Only one time in history where the two existed at the same time was after World War II. And I think we all agree that we're not there, which was after a significant number of people on the planet were wiped out due to a massive war. And then people breeded like bunny rabbits afterwards that created one of the greatest, people booms in history, which is now the baby boomers, right?
Yeah, baby boomers, yeah.
Never in history, Jace, never in history has anybody ever got their way out by taxing. It's about growth. So anyway, let's get back to some useful stuff on top of what you've just been saying, Jace, not just me rabbiting on about history. For those of you who'd been listening previously, we said, look at taking advantage of the EV taxes and things like that, because ultimately the government have these big headlines, right? And they've been around for a little while. Net zero cost blowout to, 9 billion. Oh, no, they've mismanaged that. Albanese government says Australia is on target to reduce emissions, and campaign said it could do more. I don't think it could do more to screw it up. And then, hang on. Lying Albanese government, ignorance on. Sorry, that must be the wrong slide, Jace. But ultimately, they're saying that they want to meet net zero. And we've been talking about the advantages of EV cars for business owners, no fringe benefits tax. Well, they promised this a year ago, Jace. This is another way they've taken our rights away. They've changed the law to give us incentives. And then they've changed the law and they've taken our rights away. So for those of you who heard us talk about this previously, the state governments and territory have ditched the electric car incentives. Now, they were saying we want to reach net zero and electric cars are the way to do it. So they dumped fringe benefits tax for companies. They gave all sorts of discounts, all of this sort of stuff. But now they've totally ditched it. So let me give you some stats and some real numbers on this. For Victoria, we used to have a rebate. We had a $3,000 rebate for EVs under 68,000, and it was meant to go until I think 2017. Right? The plan was to keep it. Well, ultimately ditched, gone. There's still a small bonus of $100. Queenslanders, most generous when it came to EV rebates. The government dropped its incentives just after 2 years. 2 years, gone. They're wiped out. They don't exist anymore. Right? South Australia, basically gone, wiped out, don't exist anymore. Tasmania, the list goes on. And for business owners, where they gave you the incentive to get the car in the first place, saying that we're going to abolish fringe benefits tax until 2017, right? National EV. So this is national. Sorry?
27.
27, sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm stuck in the past. Both electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles are now exempt, I'm reading this, from fringe benefits tax. But starting the 1st of April 2025, under new Australian Tax Office regulations, this will no longer be classified as a low-emission vehicle. They didn't change the laws. They changed the interpretation of what a low-emission vehicle is. What a sleight of hand, Jace. That's clever. It's deceitful, but it's clever. So ultimately, team, look back, because the law hasn't changed, but the definition has, of what is a low emission EV. So you should look and find out what is, because I'm struggling to figure it out. But here's the thing. You may still be sitting with your accountant and they think that the rules are the same because the laws haven't changed, but the definition of what that means has changed. Kerry Packer said it many years ago. He said, every time you change the law, you take somebody's rights away, 100%. And this is where the Treasurer just recently, you may or may not have seen this, was seeking counsel and was trying to be able to change, without an act of Parliament, adjust your superannuation taxes. That's what we're dealing with right here, people. So we need to be aware of it, because clearly they're stuck on, like I said, Jace, I said this a little while ago, tax is a gateway drug. And I don't know, but right now it feels like the government are really hooked on the gateway drug, which is tax, where we should be focused on growth. And growth is almost the opposite of tax. Reducing tax, increasing incentives, let's GDP our way out of this.
Mate, I'm with you. We need a little bit more focus on what can bring us up rather than taking from what already exists or is actually reducing. That's for sure. In that world. But here's a little win, folks. I had a little chuckle with this one the other day, actually, which is quite good. But I think this is almost, drives me insane. Andy, you and I in business, anyone who earns their own money, you have to earn your own money and justify why you get to fly business class or first class, even, whatever it is. But, bureaucrats, bureaucrats were thinking it as all right, just because I'm, a bureaucrat, I can fly business class and cost the taxpayer money. I think that's ludicrous, to be quite honest. But here's the drill. The decision puts the tribunal at odds with the Albanese government, which rejected recommendations to force public servants to fly economy interstate, despite it saving an estimated $4 million a year. Don't worry about us, Andy. Don't worry about us. We do not want to be uncomfortable flying interstate. But you know what, folks? We're going to charge you more taxes. You can't afford to pay your bills. You know what? You've already paid road tax or you've already paid taxes, but we're going to charge you to drive on the roads. We're going to put a levy in. We're going to put an excise in. It's tough for Australians, but don't make it tough for us. We get more in our super. We get to travel business class without having to drop our standard of living, while Aussies have to struggle. What a fucking joke that is. But anyway, it was a bit of an up. Yep, there you go. Tariffs. Yeah, now and now on with that one. I've been seeing that the government wants to charge people to push electricity back to the grid. They used to pay you for that, and now they're like, oh no, we're going to make you. This is
insane. This is insane, Jace. This is exactly what's happening. Yep. It's exactly what's happening. They're saying, here's an incentive to do it, and in 3 years, we'll charge you because you did it. We'll give you an incentive today, but we'll take it from you tomorrow. It's counterproductive. It's manipulative. It's disgusting, actually. We may need a carrot, not a whip, but ultimately, Jesus.
There you go.
The one thing
this tribunal said, no, you can travel regular class when it comes to short trips and no first class overseas either, you lot. Business class for overseas trips. So I think that's fair. At the end of the day, if it's on our dime and if they can't tune up their budgets, folks, what chance have we got when it comes to navigating this together as a crew? But there you go. I found that as a little chuckle, Andy. Yeah.
Well, I totally agree, mate, because maybe a good way to top and tail this was a graph that you sent me earlier on this week that talked about real consumption versus labour productivity. And labour productivity in Australia, ladies and gentlemen, mark my words, work from home, all of this kind of horse shit, labour productivity is at an all-time low. So we are not producing our way out. We're getting worse. So let me give you the metaphor. You're a footballer. You spend your whole life running 100 Ks a week in football. You're fit, you're trim, all of those sorts of things. And then all of a sudden you retire. And not only do you stop training, you start eating. You keep eating the same amount, and maybe you even start to eat more. You are going to put on weight and you are not going to be able to run as far. And then eventually you're going to die of a heart attack. Now that is what happens to some footballers when they finish their career, but it's what's happening as far as productivity is concerned in Australia. And if we back this up and we actually have a look at taxation based on GDP, but let's have a look at total revenue, total government revenue, right? All Australian taxation revenue, every single year, never been higher, never been spent worse, right? Never been higher. If this was a business, if this was Jason, if this was your business, mate,
you would be you'd be poleaxed in a minute.
We would be with the revenue, we'd be sitting around with Elon Musk having a bit of a chat about which bottle of Chateau Petrus we're going to be having, Chateau Petrus rather. Our revenue is going up. but the spend of the revenue is the part that matters. And I think I've mixed up my graph here. But the labor productivity. So here's the thing: never earned more money, never produced less. Never earned more money, never produced less. And here's the thing: some people have said to us at different, or certainly me recently, like, don't get all down on taxes. I'm okay with taxes, because taxes we need in order to maintain social infrastructure, social security, all of these things that we need, right? But ultimately, pissing money up against the wall when you've never earned more, but you've never been less productive, there's only one way that goes, and that is a downward spiral. And ultimately, as a business owner, Jace was saying it with the seats on a plane, mate. If our business gets tight, what happens?
Tighten the belt, mate. You fly economy. You know, one person travels, not two. You know,
Yep.
You do a Zoom call instead of getting on the plane. You make
Get
a phone
rid of
call.
Netflix.
Yep. No, you tune it up. But the government, that's not what they do. And listen, you know, Andy and I aren't against taxes. You got to have, you know, contribution to society to make a society great. We're about the idea that if you've got some rules and you navigate those, them changing to the detriment of those people who followed those rules, I think that's just rubbish. And at the end of the day, we're a big fan of the world of when you consume, you know, pay the tax. Like, if I'm going to buy something, I'm happy to pay the tax. If I don't, then why should I be penalized for, you know, taking care of my fam? But, you know, at the end of the day, it's an interesting one on it. Yeah, sometimes we do feel a bit powerless, but certainly what Andy and I have been working hard on over, you know, 20 years together in our own professions, and of recent times in the last sort of 8 to 10 years we've been working together, is a way to, you know, put the power back in our court, at least surround ourselves and our family with understanding the rules, because here is the upside of all of this, folks. The rules are actually not too bad in Australia. They're not too bad. The challenge is, Andy and I want to highlight the changes in these rules that most uneducated,
Unaware.
unaware.
Mate, let's face it. We have to dig to
Yeah.
find this information.
There's cheeky, slippery stuff that flows on through and we don't know. So, you know, if we know what's going on, we can get ahead of those changes. We can structure ourselves in a way to take care of ourselves and our families, and keep a little bit more of that hard-earned money that you deserve to keep, folks. So, you know, there you go. Well, Andy, I think we've done another episode, you know, an hour with everyone here today. But yeah, listen, folks, certainly there are solutions to these challenges. One of them, I think, is you know, voting for the right people. At the end of the day, it's never been more important to have the right people in politics and in power, directing our country and getting it right for our future. But certainly, too, we can't give away the responsibility of educating ourselves so we know enough to make good decisions and get the right people around us. And to that end, folks, Andy, tomorrow, yeah, exactly. To that end,
actually,
Andy, tomorrow is hosting a little bit of something.
Well, tomorrow, team, if you want to learn how potentially, especially as business owners or high net worth investors, there's the potential for you to be able to you know, change the rules and maybe shift them into your advantage. We've got the Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. Well, that's the Wealth Masterclass. This is where we'll go through different strategies you can use. We've got Big Five, wow, tax-free strategies. Ultimately, 5 different ways that every single one of you, one of you, for one of them, you need to be a business owner, but for the other 4, it can be Joe, everybody. We can show you how to invest tax-free in certain vehicles and how to live tax-free for a lifetime in totally legally within the rules, but also how to protect a lifetime of effort, because ultimately you spend a lifetime earning it. It makes a hell of a lot of sense to make sure that you spend some good time to protect those investments. And ultimately, team, if you want to then connect with any of the team, we've got lots of people that are within Jason and my network and without. Like, we're not here as a money generating activity. We're here to connect people with other people who can make your lives easier, whether they're in our network or not. Doesn't really matter to us. We want to make sure that we tip the scales in your favor and make sure that if you need a new broker, we'll find, or we'll introduce you to the right ones that you need to be looking at. And if you need new accounts, you need these things, we'll help you in the right direction. We're here to help, team. We've been doing it for a long time now, especially 2.5 years in COVID, 200 episodes of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. We're here to try and show you how the rules are changing, because ultimately we get on a soapbox and we hope that you're a little bit entertained by it, but we show you how the rules change, Jace. Like, we show you all of the things that we see on a day-to-day basis, because we have hundreds of conversations and somebody says, oh, did you see this? Did you hear about that? But the average Australian, no idea, right? Because all you see in the news is clickbait and horrible journalism that basically makes the world look like it's a horrible place. But the reality is there's a real good side to them making the decisions that they make. There's a really good opportunity that we haven't spoken about yet, and we'll dive into next week, about interest rates dropping, because it's very, very rare in life that you get two bites at the apple. 2 bites at the apple. I think somebody told me the right way to speak about that.
Or something of the cherry, pop of the cherry, bite of the apple. Anyway, there you go.
And it's very rare that you get two opportunities, and it may well be that second coming that you'll be able to take advantage of, and maybe it won't exist for a long time into the future. So, team, if you want to catch up, hang out. Tomorrow, 9:00, I'll be hanging around and doing a masterclass for about 90 minutes for those of you who want to join. Or just scan the QR code. We do them weekly. So there's a number of them coming up over the next few weeks. So if you want to learn more, come and hang out, and we'll have a little bit of a chat. We'll leave the QR code up there. But Jace, other than one little interesting thing that I did see, which we will cover next week, which was David Morgan, which was an ex-Treasury official who talked about how they should be linking the tax brackets to inflation like they did back in the days of Gough Whitlam. How they should be doing that is actually on the agenda at the government summit. So we'll chat a little bit about that next week, what that could mean, and whether that made a difference back in those days to productivity in Australia, because that's actually, in theory, keeping taxes in line with how much you get to keep. And as you and I both know, Jason, and what we spend a lifetime trying to help people with is keeping more of what you make, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep.
How much you get to keep, indeed. Yep. Well, folks, hopefully, like Andy said, it was informative, maybe entertaining a little. That's why we try and tune it up on a Friday. But great to have you with us, and big thank you for joining us on the live stream. We will be continuing this all the way to the end of November. So we've got our second season underway, folks. As always, leave us a comment in the chat if there's something that you've seen that you reckon we should have a little look at that we haven't. It's always great to get your feedback, and we'll make sure we read them. So, folks, until we see you again next week, take care, folks. It's I think it's a big goodbye from me.
And it's a good night from him. Good night, team.
Good night. See you, folks.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss a thing, folks.
We'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Debrief the week with Wealth, Wine and Wisdom
every Friday at 5 p.m. Victoria and New South Wales time. We know that Queensland, South Australia, WA have different time zones, as does Darwin, but we're sure that you can do the calculations depending on whether it's daylight savings or not.
You can also catch up on all the episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you check out the Positive Mentor podcast from our 6-star team at positivementor.com.au.